Hey, Joe Latender here. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tools. I'm going to show you how to use 5 tools, what these tools are that are going to have an immediate impact, an immediate payoff on your vinyl plank or laminate installation. They're going to make your job easier. It's going to go faster, and as an end result, you are going to have a nicer looking installation with some of these tools, meaning you're going to have a professional result. Isn't that what we all want? Even though we're doing it ourselves, we really want it to look good, right? So I'm going to show you the tools that you are going to need while you're doing your vinyl plank or laminate installation. Now, one of these tools out of the 5 that I'm going to show you is a tool that comes in every box of plank that you own, and it's absolutely free. You don't have to pay for it. You already did when you bought the plank. You can make as many of them as you want. Not many know about this tool, but it's going to be the one tool that is going to be the best tool probably out of all 5 of these that you could have, even though I think all 5 of these are good. So I like to just take the square edge, not this edge or the other factory edge. Get the square edge against the jamb. Now I like the oscillating saw the best because it makes the cleanest cut. You can get precise with it so there's not a huge gap under. Now this is a power jam saw. I used to use this a lot back in the day before oscillating saws really became a thing. They're big, they're bulky, hard to get into tight spots. They don't really cut too precise either. You can see the large gap that's in between my plank and the door jamb there. Their blades are expensive, they're specialty items, so they're just not really the greatest tool to have. Now this is a hand saw. You can get one that has a fine tooth blade, but honestly, those saws aren't going to get into a tight spot. They're a pain in the butt. The oscillating saw is really the most precise tool that you can get with the cleanest cut. You can use it for so many different things. The blade adjusts all different ways to be able to get into tight spots. I just really like the oscillating saw. Like you see here, I'm cutting this floor and I couldn't get my saw all the way to the wall, so I used the oscillating saw to get all the way to the wall. Now another thing I use it for is cutting staples, metal, bolts, all sorts of things. This thing is really going to come in handy for you. Okay, so here's an oscillating saw that I have. The battery's missing. This is a cordless one. Now it's made by Milwaukee. It's a nice oscillating saw. It cost me about $100 without the battery. But you don't need to get an oscillating saw that costs $100. And honestly, you could go to Harbor Freight Tools and get one for less than $30. I've done that, and I did an entire building with condos, 30 plus condos that had probably 10 plus doors in each unit to test this out so that I could recommend it to members of a group that I have online. And it worked great, never burnt out. I did the whole building with it. The only thing is it was a little slower than a nicer one like this, so I haven't used it since. But it worked the entire time. The nice thing is that these blades adjust to get into different areas where you can just unscrew it, or some of them have a little different system to it where you just unscrew it. You can put the blade in different positions, like I showed you in that video, or earlier in the video where I cut underneath the cabinets. These are a great multi-purpose tool, and beyond the installation that we're working on, you can use one of these oscillating saws for so many things. Like they can come with a little sander on there to get into tight spots. I've used it many times for like refinishing dressers and things like that. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is that oscillating saw blades are super expensive. Okay, if you go to the big box store and buy them. But if you go on Amazon, and I'll leave a link for this, you can get a big pack, multi-pack of different blades that are less than $30. And there is 20 some plus blades in here. Here, maybe it says on here. I don't know, but I'll leave a link for that so that you can check that out. Now this is the but the variety pack, so it comes with different blades. A lot of times what can happen with oscillating saws is when you're cutting a door jamb, especially in older houses, that they use the old nails, casing nails. If you hit one of those with the wood blade, it's done. And that's why I like to buy these, because they're so nice to have, and I can switch over to a bimetal blade, which cuts a little slower through wood, but it still does the job. Makes precise cuts, and it'll cut through those nails. Now this is a tapping block. This is a tool that you can use to assist putting the planks together. I'm sure you've seen one of these. You might even already have one. And if you do, you might notice that it feels really light, really cheap. Well, that's because the ones that they sell at the big box stores aren't very good at all. Now, I'm not saying you need a super big heavy duty tapping block, but I will tell you this big heavy duty tapping block I use helps a lot. It has a lot of leverage when I need it, and it's just solid and has a little weight to it, so it really helps to be able to get the joints together using a more heavy duty tapping block. Now, this is a tongue and groove system on both the long part of the joint and the short joint. If you put that butt joint together first, now you'll use the tapping block to help assist you into getting this plank in. Now, I like to lift the plank up ever so slightly at an angle and start working my way back towards the plank where I just connected it. And I do a light tap with the tapping block to help me. This is a tapping block that I'll leave a link for. It's a really good tapping block. It's not a cheap, cheesy one, so it's gonna last you. It's not gonna break during the installation. So I'll leave a link for this. So you can damage the plank with the tapping block, and if you damage the groove, you just need to get the debris out of the way. That's still a usable plank. You just need to be more careful with the tongue. If you ever want to hit the tongue, you need to use a scrap piece and hit the scrap piece. You just connect it to the plank and hit the scrap piece. Now, a way that you can avoid damaging the plank with the tapping block is you want to have one end touching the plank at all times when you're using it. You can kind of see how we're doing a swinging motion here, how we are keeping one end touching the plank while we're tapping. Okay, I want to show you a couple of tapping blocks that I have here because you probably see me use both of these in the videos and are wondering, okay, where do you get these? This particular tapping block is a really old tapping block. As a matter of fact, it's from the early 2000 era. Back when you used to bang plank together, there was no click, it was bang it. So the bigger the better back then. Well, they don't make this anymore. So now, recently, in the past year or two, this is a tapping block they finally came out with again. A nice big heavy duty one. Now again, like I said, you're not looking to beat it, but sometimes you do have to do that. But even having a tapping block with a little weight, using a light little tap with something with a little more weight really gives you more stability and the plank goes together a lot nicer. I really like this tapping block. Now, you don't have to use this. I'm just telling you, I'd use anything but what they're selling at those box stores. You can go online and find something similar to this. I'll leave a link below so that you can check this one out. Now next I want to talk to you about pole bars. Now if you can see these two pole bars here, the reason why I have two different ones is because, again, this is a pole bar that I got back way in the early 2000s when I got that tapping block. And this, they don't make anymore. So now, finally, in the last few years, they've came out with a nice pole bar again. Now, a pole bar is really a great tool to have. You're gonna probably need one no matter what on your project for when you get close to the walls. If you have a gap out in the middle of the floor, these are the tools that you're gonna wanna use to be able to get those gaps closed up. Or in tight areas, a pole bar is really a good tool to get. Now I'll leave a link for this one in the description, but I want to show you how this pole bar works and the different ways that you can use it. Some examples of where to use this pole bar are like against the wall where you can't get the tapping block into. So what I do is I use a scrap piece that I cut, I slide it into place, I lock it in, and then we use the pole bar and hit it, and it acts as the tapping block now. Now this works really well in tight areas, any kind of a tight area where you can't get leverage by pulling the plank in with your hands. The other place where it's used mostly is along the wall, getting the last row in. You shove it in between the plank and the sheetrock, and then you hit it to get the plank to lock into place. Now sometimes you have to put a little force into it to get in between the sheetrock and the plank because it's pushed forward right now because it's not in joint. It also closes up gaps like this in the middle of a row. Works really well. All right, so real quick here, I want to share one of my favorite tools that I actually have here. I talk about this tool a lot in my videos. Now this is a linoleum knife. I call it a tuck knife. Now back in my carpet days, we used this to tuck carpet along the baseboard. I still do it like that today, but this is actually made to cut linoleum. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because I use this tool for everything. This is like the best multi-purpose tool I've ever owned. I have them a couple in the garage, a couple in the shed. I don't even know how many at work, but this thing does everything, and I'm gonna show you that in a second here. And I might as well bring up a utility knife. Now, a utility knife, what do you mean, Joe? Why are you telling me about a utility knife? Well, I'm just gonna show you what I'm talking about here. So this is a fixed blade utility knife. Real nice, easy change here where I screw it, but it locks in place here. And it carries a bunch of blades right in there, nice and easy. It's really a nice little utility knife. Now, I've had this one for probably a year and a half and it still hasn't worn out, and I use this a lot. That's why I'm bringing it up to you. Now, I know a lot of you guys have these fancy ones that you put in your pocket, they flip open. You're doing some real work here now, guys. I just want to tell you, I'm telling you about this one. Now, you don't have to get this one, but they do sell a fixed blade utility knife at the box stores that you need to use a screwdriver to open. I would highly recommend you switch to one of that when you're cutting this vinyl plank and stuff. Don't use one that expands and contracts out. Don't use one of those flip ones. I mean, you can if you want to, but be careful. Those things, you're probably gonna break it for sure. And I just am more concerned about you cutting yourself. Anyway, a fixed blade utility knife is what you're gonna use for heavy duty work, guys and gals. I gotta show you one more thing here, two more things. Now this, before I get to the grand finale of the last one, people have been asking me, Joe, what do you use for a tool pouch? I use a pouch like this. It's got a couple of pockets, pocket here and a pocket here. Now I don't use these ever, but these I do every once in a while when I need a screwdriver to carry around. But I don't do that often. When I'm done with the screwdriver, I have it in my pouch for a while. I go throw it back inside the toolbox. But I carry markers and both my knives in here. Really a good pouch. You can see how beat up it is. I probably go through these once a year, mainly because I stab my knife through there after a few months. You can see I glue it, I epoxy it. I try to do everything to keep one for a while. But the key is you can cut a slit in the back of these so that you can run it through your belt loop and weave the belt in your belt loop and back out. Now, I'd show you how to do that, but I don't want to carry the video on for too long. Anyway, I'll leave a link for that too. Now, I want to show you these knee pads. And I'm showing you these kinds of things because people are asking me all the time, what are you using? This is made by Pro Knee. Now, this is an expensive knee pad. It's like 90 bucks. I think I bought these for 75, but they've went up in price a little bit since. But you can get this foam padding in here. This is actually the thinner version. You can get it up to 2 inches thick. I love these things. The straps don't bother you. You crisscross the straps in the back when they come around your leg. They really don't bug me at all. Of course, someone who never wears knee pads, they'll probably bug you after a while. But the beautiful thing about these knee pads is that they can be rebuilt. So like, you can see this is one that I use for tile mostly. You see how nasty that's looking? Well, this comes off. It unscrews. There's a screw there, down here and down here. You can get these replaced. You can also replace the pads, the straps. Everything in this thing is rebuildable. So this would be the last pair of knee pads you would ever own. And Pro Knee has been around for a long time. I don't have any affiliate with any of these things that I'm showing you as far as them paying me. I will tell you though that I will put links below the video for all of these things. And if you do use my link, I will make a commission on it. And I just want to say thank you if you do. I'm not showing you these things because of the commission. I could care less if you use my link, guys. I just am telling you that I'd really appreciate it if you did. But if you go somewhere else, I understand. I just want to show you some quality tools. Now I'm ready to show you the final tool that we talked about. The one that comes in every box, the one that's free. So here, let's watch. Okay, I want to show you how I use that linoleum knife, which I call a tuck knife, by the way. So if I call it tuck knife, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I use this again, like I said, for everything. Right now, I'm a little tight along the wall here where I installed this vinyl plank, and I'm using it to scrape the sheetrock away from from underneath that crack there, and then I vacuumed it out. So I also use this to take doors off. I just shove the tip in there, hit the pins up, and you can pop those pins right out. Works great for taking doors off. Now that tip is super strong on there. You might bend it. I've never broke one of these particular linoleum knives, but they work really well. You can see how I'm using it to scrape things, gouge things out. I use it during tile installations to pull tile off walls. I mean, this tool is incredible for prying things up. I use this for working on the car, all sorts of projects around the house. You can use it to take staples up. I mean, it's just really a good tool. I'm telling you about it because I've told so many people about it and everybody tells me they love it, so I thought I would share it with you. Also, really good tool for like prying carpet up if you have carpet demo. It just comes in handy so many ways. Now I'm showing you this utility knife at work a little bit. It's really a heavy duty utility knife. And again, this is called a shark knife or a dolphin knife. It's really a great knife. I've had this one for a long time, so I'm just sharing with you this because most of you, this would be a lifetime knife for you. I use it every day, and I've had this one, like I said, for over a year and a half. But if you buy one from Home Depot, just make sure you get the one that encloses the blade, that locks it into place, and it's not a retractable. You're just going to be so much happier with using a utility knife that has some strength to it. Anyway, you can see here I even use it for cutting cement board. I use this utility knife for everything. Again, these tools that I'm showing you are like on my side constantly. Now, as far as cutting vinyl plank, works really well. The blade is not wobbly at all. It's got some good guidance and strength to it. No bend to it whatsoever. I'm really pressing down hard here. You can see my hand kind of shaking a little bit. Now, it's good to run a utility knife across the plank a couple of times. I like to run it twice down before I snap and score it. I'm cutting on the plank here where I drew a line with the cheater board I'm going to show you here. And this works great to score twice. Maybe you might need to score 3 or 4 times to be able to get it to break the way that I'm going to show you right now. But again, there's also jigsaws that you can use. I just like to try to use the utility knife as much as possible. With this marking board here that I use, this cheater board, is all I did is I took a board and I cut off the female end. I leave the male end on, which gives me the gap I want. By the time I run my marker right there, I'm getting the 1/4 inch that I want. And so that's how you make a cheater board. Listen, my friends, this is an absolute incredible tool that comes in every box of your plank. And you can make it super easy, just like I just showed you. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm marking some planks that are on the floor, and these planks are actually going to go in the spot where you see the bare concrete there. And I have other videos that show how to do this method so that you can learn it and be able to use it on your installation. But I'm going to run you down on a couple of these here. You can see I took a couple of scrap pieces and I hooked them onto the floor. Now, I hooked on the piece outside of that and another piece to get it in the position that it needs to be for me to be able to mark this correctly. And you can see now I'm going to mark out this jamb. Now this is kind of a funky jamb, so it's taken a little bit more effort to use this, but it's still an awesome tool. Makes precise marking on your plank every time. You'll make error-proof cuts when you use this cheater board. It's just, again, an absolute great tool to use. And you can see after I'm done marking this how this plank is going to fit in there. And again, I have videos that show you how to do this and how to use this tool in great detail, but you can see how this plank is going to go in there nicely and it fits perfectly. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to show any more tools, but I have one more. So look at it as a bonus. Now this is a little tiny planing tool. Okay? Tiny wood planing tool. Now this is what I use when I'm trying to get vinyl plank or laminate locked into something that I can't lift. Now traditionally you need to lift, insert the tongue into the groove, but you have to have it at an angle first to set it down into the groove and to get it to lock into place. And that is because this has a lip on it. Now I'm going to show you this closer up in the video, but it has a lip on this in the groove. Maybe you can see it. And so this planing tool is used to cut this lip off. And again, I'm going to show you this. Now you can use a utility knife. Now I'm going to just be honest with you right now. There are a few vinyl planks that I have installed that this hasn't worked very well. And so the other option is you can use a utility knife or a sharp chisel. And with the utility knife, you're just going to cut this lip off, and all I'm doing is running my utility knife right down the lip and just scraping it right off. Okay? So this is the lip I'm talking about. Now, you can do that way. And it works pretty good that way. So if you don't want to spend the $8 on something like this, then try it with a utility knife. If you don't like it, you can always get one of these. Now, I find them in stock at Menards. I found them at Lowe's, and I found them at a couple of Home Depots. But if you can't find it, I will have a link below that you can click on and you can order one of these. This is an awesome tool, and I'm going to show you how to use it right now. All right, so we have a difficult area here where I could not lift the plank up because it slid underneath the wall in the jamb there. So I had to cut that lip off that you're seeing right here. Now this is on a piece of laminate. It looks very similar to vinyl plank. And I used that tool that I showed you earlier, that small planing tool, to get this lip off. Now most of the time this planing tool only needs to have one pass down the plank to be able to get the lip completely off, but sometimes it takes a little bit more, and you can see that blade adjusts. And again, like I told you can use a utility knife or a sharp chisel to take this off, but you can see how nicely this thing runs down the edge of the plank. Works a lot quicker definitely with laminate than it does with vinyl plank, but very similar. And again, if you can't get the planer to work well for you, then you can always use the chisel or the utility knife. Once I'm done, I squirt some glue inside this joint. Now with vinyl plank, I like to use clear Gorilla Glue. Laminate, you're going to want to use just a wood glue. Now clear Gorilla Glue is a glue that needs a little moisture. So you do want to wipe both the groove and the tongue of the planks that are going together with a moist terry cloth. That's what's going to activate that glue. You can see here I was just demonstrating on how I put the plank in. I slid it forward there while it was off the floor, and then I put the glue in. Now I have a little bit of a wave in this floor, so I'm using a tapping block and a scrap piece to try to put the plank together to give it a little bit more force. But this works really great in tight areas. It's something that I use a lot. And then when I'm done, I just tape it. Blue tape works really well. Sometimes it doesn't stick to some vinyl planks, so I'll use duct tape. If you leave any kind of, residue left behind from duct tape, you can always get that off with some denatured alcohol. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching some of the tools that I have, some of the tools that I use. I just thought I would throw those out there because many of you ask me all the time. I just want to tell you thanks for watching, and I want to pray for you, your families, and I pray that you guys are blessed, that you're showered with God's grace, and I pray that your projects go well and that they go problem-free, and you are able to finish those. And I pray for this in Jesus' name. Again, my name is Joe Latender. I appreciate you watching. Please hit that subscribe button or that like button if I've earned it from you, and I'll see you on the next video.